There are a lot of reasons to live in the Florida Keys, but with condo prices at 600,000, 800,000, and even pushing $1 million, you might be searching for cheaper options. And a lot of people who live there have found them. They live on boats. Now, here at Practical Sailor, we're all about the cruising and sailing life, but eventually you may want to settle down. And there are a lot of people who can't afford the on land real estate in the Keys, so they buy a boat to live on there. And then they find somewhere to put it, but you likely already own a boat, so let's look at some options. The Florida Keys have a subtropical climate, golden beaches, pristine skies, and the closest thing to Bahamas water that you'll find while still residing in the US, having access to US shopping and medical care. The vibe there is very relaxed, laid back, and low key. The social atmosphere is one of retired folks enjoying life, Jimmy Buffett songs on the radio, afternoon siestas in the hammock, and rum punch drinks all around. But it's not all sunshine and snorkeling. The Keys are often hit by storms and hurricanes. More on that later. The first option you have is to anchor your boat. The Keys are relatively shallow and mostly clear watered, so you may think that anchoring here would be easy and the best option, but take it from the liveaboards who are already there. Anchoring has its challenges. In a lot of the Keys, the sea growth and coral make it hard to actually set an anchor. Many of the folks there have 3 or even 5 anchors set all around them so that no matter which way the wind blows, they have the boat locked in. And the wind blows. Windstorms in the 50+ knot range are pretty common. The shallow waters get violently stirred up, and it's a very common experience to be dragged into by someone else's boat. You might spend the most money on anchor and chain and take the most care when using it, but you can bet someone else won't. They have salvage ships regularly patrolling during storm activity because this happens a lot. And then there's the air conditioning. Pretty much everyone in the Keys says the same thing. In the summer months, you absolutely need AC. Some folks think that they won't need it, and they find out very quickly in August how hot can really be. It's unlivable sometimes, and you can bet you'll need AC. And once you've run it once, you'll probably run it every night. And regardless of how much solar and wind you have, you can bet you'll be running a generator to have the AC on. And that Jenny will need fuel and oil changes and filters, and it'll break down a lot. You have to think, this isn't just a month-long tour of the Keys that you're on. You'll really be living here, so the AC and the Jenny will get used constantly if you decide to anchor out. And the dinghy ride into shore, you may get lucky and have just a half mile or so, but most liveaboards have at least a mile run to the nearest dinghy dock, and most of it a no-wake zone. So even if you have a rib that'll do 25 knots, you won't be able to. You'll be idle speed everywhere you go, and Florida can be tough on speeders in dinghies. It's the only place I've ever been pulled over in my dinghy and forced to show proof of dinghy registration, life vest, and a safety kit, and lights, even during the day. Florida is no joke for dinghies. And if all that isn't enough to make you want a better option than anchoring, they passed a new law in the Keys that says that you have to move every 90 days. That may sound like a long time, but when you live there and you have 3 or even 5 anchors down, moving the boat every 90 days becomes a ridiculous endeavor. Now, they passed this law because all these chains and anchors dragging around are damaging the coral in the seabed, and they want everyone to go onto a mooring ball instead. They're fine with you living on your boat, but they'd rather you be on a mooring. They use helix-style moorings a lot, and they're way better at causing less damage to the seabed, and you only need 1 per boat with a lot shorter scope, so you can fit more boats. The law is also aimed at lessening the amount of derelict, abandoned boats in the Keys. These are a big problem in Florida, and they cause a lot of damage when they inevitably drag and crash into land during a storm or into other boats. If you have to move every 90 days and they see some boats that don't ever move, they can get rid of them so that there's less derelict vessels. Moorings also cost money though, so if you want to go down that road, expect to pay anywhere from a couple $100 a month to over $1,000. But most of the moorings are operated by a marina, and paying to use that mooring means that you won't have to anchor, move the boat every 90 days, and you usually get access to the marina facilities like laundry and showers, and maybe even a very coveted parking spot for your car. This is a huge deal in the Keys. If you want a car to use, you'll need somewhere to keep it, and living on anchor means no parking spot. While I have you, please don't forget to subscribe to this Practical Sailor channel so that you can see more from us. And if you're having fun, click the thumbs up button for us. It helps us to know what people like. Now, anchoring and mooring is the cheapest way to do things, but also the least convenient and potentially the least safe, with a derelict 50-footer dragging down on you during one of those crazy Florida storms. The solution to all that is to stay at a dock, and you have a couple options if that's what you want to do. The prices in the Keys can range wildly based on location and services available, so we just looked at the really hot spots, and here's what we found. Renting a slip monthly for boats of 40 feet or under can range from $500 to well over $3,000 a month based on where you want to be, but a good average for 40-ish feet or under is about $1,000 a month. That's pretty darn good for living in the Florida Keys, where rent on an apartment can be $5,000 a month. Some of those $1,000 a month marinas will include electric and water, and sometimes even Wi-Fi, though obviously the Wi-Fi is not to be relied upon if you have to work from the boat or something. It's marina Wi-Fi, and as always, is best effort. Some marinas, however, will not include utilities. They have installed meters on the electric and water and charge by the kilowatt and gallon. Even so, it's not uncommon to live in the Keys on a rented dock for less than $2,000 a month all in. But at that dock, you'll also need to have insurance. It's not legally required to have insurance in Florida, but the marina will make you have it, usually liability of $500,000 or more. And you'll be victim to your neighbors. Living on a boat is a lot like living in the house, except you can't build a big fence if you don't like the guy next door. You share a dock and you see each other constantly. But renting a dock allows you to move around and leave if you want to leave. Go somewhere else and rent a different dock. But rent goes up, properties get bought and sold, and eventually you will be evicted and have to find somewhere new. To avoid that, a lot of people will buy a slip. Now, this may sound weird if you're used to real estate being land-based, but in the Keys, you can definitely purchase a slip that you will own forever. Usually a marina or some other organization will maintain the docks and the utilities so that that slip will come with an extra fee, like an HOA fee. A few hundred a month to have them take care of everything around you that isn't your boat. And slips range in price. We found some as cheap as $100,000 and some as much as $500,000, but the average is about $250,000 to $300,000. And that may sound like a lot for what is effectively not even a piece of land, but now you own it. No rent, no eviction, no price increases. That slip is yours. And lenders like First State Bank know all about these slips and have created mortgages just for the slips. They'll give you the $300,000 if you put 30% down, and then your mortgage payment will be slightly more than the rent. But once it's paid off, no more payments. It's yours. And you can rent it out if you want. You can keep it. You can live in it, whatever you want. And it may sound crazy to buy a slip, but a lot of people are actually doing this. You can find slips for sale all over the internet in different parts of the Keys. You'll be paying additional for insurance, for HOA fees, and utilities, but most folks reported that the all-in price is less than $2,000 a month, and now they own property in the Keys. Usually they then buy a cheap boat, sub $50,000, and they park it in that slip. It doesn't even have to run or sail. It just becomes a house. Now, all this sounds nice, but remember the hurricanes. A lot of boats are lost every year in the Keys, and a lot of anchored boats drag. Moorings rarely, but sometimes do fail, and the storm surge raises water levels dramatically, very quickly. I was in the surge from Hurricane Michael back in 2018, and the water went up 8 feet. If I was at a dock of some kind, I would have been on top of that dock and then some. The risk of losing the boat in a hurricane is not zero, so you should have a plan to replace the boat if needed, and insurance to cover any damage that it might do. Also, you have to do bottom paint every couple years, lines and fenders, regular maintenance, and because it's a salty environment, everything will break all the time. Maybe not as much as being a full-time cruiser with the boat moving around, but more than it would in a house. What do you guys think? Would you live in the Keys on a boat? What's the cost of living in your neck of the woods if you live on the boat? And do they even let you live on a boat where you live? Let us know in the comments. See you guys next time.